it's hard for me to admit this, and I have to almost tell myself that really you didn't have the most authentic connection. Like deep when I was a kid, and I wanted that in search to find more of this Judaism that I'm being taught, that I'm going to school with. I want more of that. It's like now I'm like using it as a safe haven. I'm trying to find a place where I can escape because the pain's too much, and I feel good there. I feel really good there.
So what's the hard part to say? You were saying it's hard for you to admit that.
Well, to say that my relationship with God at the beginning was fake.
It was a relationship with yourself, not a relationship with God.
Place, but at the same time, that's all I knew. That's the level of consciousness that I had, and it's almost like I was guided there, and that was my outlet. That was my thing that I fell into.
Yeah, I'm not looking to put it down because
no.
As far as options are, it's probably a safer disconnection than heroin. I'm not
probably.
I'm not putting it down. I'm just saying that, like, when you said it, it hit me. Someone can be using these tools for disconnection, and someone who's on the other side of that, recognizing a child who's using it for disconnection, can point it out. It's like, okay, it's wonderful that you're steeped in religion, but this is not connecting you. This is disconnecting you.
Yeah, I mean, in the end of the day, the Jewish thought is, how do you say? I don't know how you say it in English, but Tachlal Lishma, Bal Lishma. It's like from a place of unconsciousness, I will come to a place of consciously doing this, where I have that intention. So, if I believe this is the right path, I believed it. I just wasn't connecting the way that I really felt. This is because I had a blockage. I had a major blockage of that feeling towards it, rather than it saying that I've worked through my stuff. I really found God. But in this situation, I found God out of a place of desperation.
Right. So let's talk about that. Take us through that journey, because it certainly doesn't look like it took you away from the practice of it. Like you said, tefillin has a special place in your heart, and you feel deeply connected to the mitzvahs. But today it sounds like it's not coming from a place of disconnection. It's coming from a place of, it's not running away, it's running towards.
Yeah. So I definitely am running towards. It's been a journey from with all of this, which I can fast forward a bit.
No, don't fast forward at all.
Or just so I was at 22. I just finished a year of yeshiva, and then in Morristown, New Jersey, and then I went to work in this dental company because I wanted to make some money, because I wanted to go back to yeshiva. My parents were really eager for me to finish or go back to school or something, or do something with my university degree.
So at this point, your travels took you to Chabad?
Yeah. So I went there. I came out. Some guy offered me a summer job. I ended up meeting this guy there who was a Chabad guy. And we were getting along, and he came to me and he said, I have this guy, I have this sister-in-law that first a guy came up and someone told me about it, and I introduced it to him in yeshiva about this girl, and she had 2 kids, and he was an older bacher in the yeshiva that I was in, and then I sort of introduced the idea to him. That it came up while I was still in yeshiva, and then when I came out of yeshiva, it's just happened that guy rejected that offering, and then it came up for me, and I was like, I'm a 24-year-old kid. Why am I getting offered this woman with 2 kids? But my brother-in-law now, this would eventually be my wife, just thought it was a good match. So he brought it up, and something inside me said, I have to go meet this girl. But I was extremely afraid, because how am I going to present this to my parents? So I become Chabad. Then I go and I start telling my parents, hey, I want to date this woman with 2 kids, which just sounds ludicrous. And so I asked all these rabbis, and they all gave me mixed opinions. But one rabbi who actually knew her said, you should actually go for it. And here's the plan. You're going to go date her for 2 dates. And if it's nothing, you don't have to tell your parents. But if it becomes something, then you introduce it to your parents. And that whole idea backfired, because my parents were super triggered by that. And they got super triggered about how the Chabad movement was showing up. And they thought they were manipulating me, and so on and so forth. So that became an interesting experience. But I was dead set on, after the second date, I wanted to marry this girl. I felt so strongly connected. I can't even tell you what it was. And I felt like this is my purpose, like right here with her. And so I introduced it. My parents pushed back a lot, but they sort of let me do my own thing, hoping that it would end. And later on, I met the kids. She had 2 kids. So her first husband passed away, got hit by a train,
Oh,
unfortunately. And she had one child who was 1.5 and another child who wasn't born yet. So
at the time of the death, not
at the time of the death. And then a couple of years later, so
this is what you mean, your life surrounded by death. Okay, so it's,
I just keep attracting it. So it's almost like I need to face this thing that's surrounding me. So we ended up getting engaged and getting married. I met the kids after a number of dates. I made sure that I made a number of dates before I met the kids because I didn't want to be influenced by feeling anything for the kids. I wanted to make sure my connection was with my wife first, or who I was dating first. And then when I met the kids, it was just like they were the sweetest kids. Like it just almost like sealed the deal. It's like, even though I had made the decision sort of that I wanted to do, but I was afraid. I was very afraid. I didn't know what to do. Went through with it, and we got married. And then I was like fully given over, and then she was just not there. She had no capacity to be there. It's like she went through her stuff and her therapy and whatever she had to go through to get to a place where she felt that she wanted to move forward, but you can't know until you experience it of what's going to come up as you're experiencing it. So it's a lot of stuff from the past came up for her, but I wasn't aware of any of this. There was no communication about it because she felt like she didn't want to hurt me. So I was married to this woman who just no connection.
Right, the amount of pain we cause people in the name of not hurting them.
Yeah, tell me about it. And then we had a child together. That was my first daughter, and named her after my bubby that had the stroke. It was like full cycle. And we had another kid, and I was just working and trying to, and what ended up happening, so they were a Chabad house shluchim. They were for like young adults. They were
They meaning
my wife and her previous husband.
Got it, understood.
They were working in a community. So what I did was, I was like, okay, I'm gonna, I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life, but I thought maybe I'll be a Chabad shliach or whatever. I just stepped into his shoes now, or tried to step into his shoes. So 2 things I try to do, which end up becoming very dangerous. Not dangerous in a sense like it's someone's life is at risk, but it's dangerous to take on someone else's energy. It's dangerous to step in someone else's shoes where you don't belong, because you feel out of place, and it's like everyone else feels like that's not your place. It's not a spoken thing, but it's known. So I jumped into being that same role where we were like doing young adult events, but I knew there was like a disconnection. Like she didn't feel it. I was feeling it more. I wanted it more. And then in terms of showing up to these 2 kids, it was like, well, what do you call me? You can't call me Tati, because Tati would be competing with the Tati that they had. And, I sort of don't want to compete with that, but I want to give them the most normal life possible. Like it's the most, like, I don't want them to feel that void anymore. So in wanting the right thing, I ended up doing it the wrong way. I don't want them to feel the void, so it's almost like I took that role and replaced him. No pictures of him in the house, no real mention, only on days, like important days like a birthday and whatever, but I wasn't really a part of that. On the yurt site, they went to the graveside, and I wasn't a part of that. And it was too hard for me to really see that, because I felt that competition. I felt like this competition is what's causing me not to be able to have an authentic relationship with my wife. I can't.
So the competition from your wife or from your kids?
No, it was more from my wife in the previous relationship. But any power that I gave to that relationship. So even the last name, I wanted that, and we went to therapy to figure out like what last name we should go with, my last name or his last name, and the therapist suggested that we switch to my last name to have like a family unit, and then eventually at a certain point in time you'll discuss it with them. You'll have an open conversation, gets to that point. But it was almost like, because of that, I ended up excluding him. It's like he was like really not a part of this household. and which is not fair to them because that was their father. But I was trying to do it from a place of like, I want to be here I don't want you to feel like you don't have a father. I don't want you to feel that pain.
Right.
And I was just trying. I was like running around trying to do this, and everything I was doing was just causing more pain and disconnection between me and my wife. And I was building up to a certain point where I was like, I just need to focus. My escape then became not learning and whatever anymore. It became working. I need to work. I need to make money. So I left the whole shluchas stuff and went and was sort of doing it part-time, but didn't really feel connected. And I went into financial advice, or my father suggested that. I went into it. He helped me with connections. I got a job, and I was working nonstop. And and I was worried that I wasn't really going to make it in work. So I had a lot of anxiety and fear about what's going to be. So I went to a doctor because I thought like I can't focus. I can't focus. I need to take.
Looking for some medication or something.
I was looking to be diagnosed with ADHD and get some medication. So I went to this neurologist. Bless you.
Excuse me. Thank you.
And he prescribed me to a Vyvanse, which is some ADHD drug, and I could focus, but I was almost like too focused. And I was so focused on that, everything became about business. Everything. I left early in the morning. I came back at night. My kids didn't see me. My wife saw me only for a little bit, but I was on this drug. I wasn't even telling her that I was taking this the Vyvanse, and I felt very disconnected emotionally, very disconnected from anything but what the focus was, business. And then I was like, things aren't moving fast enough, and I'm struggling in business. So I went back to the doctor. He subscribed me to an antidepressant. So now I'm antidepressant.
And the anti-anxiety, or
and not the anti-anxiety. I never took anti-anxiety.
I mean the ADHD.
The ADHD, yeah. and then
you were taking both.
I was taking both. I went back to him a third time, and because still wasn't moving fast enough, and he put me on this like trial drug. I don't even remember what it was, like Intuit or something, whatever it was called. And at that point, I was like losing a lot of weight and so disconnected from myself, like extremely. Like, I have a beard right now. You see this, and I had a beard back then also, and you could see my cheekbone in my beard. Like it was like I lost like I was probably like 150. I'm now like 175. It's like a lot of weight for me to lose. So it was noticeable. Wasn't eating, just no emotion. And there was some talk about this workshop that was going on in the Chabad world, or there was getting traction in the Chabad world. So I had like all these like missionaries that came to me, and it's like, oh, you got to go on this workshop. I'm like, listen, buddy, to my friends, I don't got to go in any workshop. You had a messed up childhood. I know about your childhood. I had a good childhood. Things were good for me. I don't need your workshop. I got this. I felt like, there was a strong wall between really seeing what was going on and enough pressure. I had a good friend, so my brother-in-law is Nachman Forer. He's my partner in the workshops now. So his brother, Menachem Forer, and it's like that Forer family is like, and some other guys, some of the Mogilevskis, came to me and they pushed me hard. You got to do this. So he called me up one day. He's like, I'm taking your credit card right now. I'm signing you up and you're going on this workshop. And there's a lot of pressure at work because I was working for somebody else. At the time, I had no money. Not only did I have no money, I was making like $60,000 a year. Nobody knew that I had like also $150,000 of debt that I took on as against my house, and I maxed it out. Like that was it. I didn't have this room to go and do that. I just had my fifth kid, combined with the other two, and it's like, you're going. And so I went to my boss and I was like, can I take a day off for the Friday, go to Jersey? He's like, no. Ended up taking off the day anyways, called in as a sick day, and just went to that workshop. And everything from that point on became possible. That was the moment of possibility for everything in my life. That was like the opening. that I was long awaiting for.